Hello guys, the repository pattern in Go language is a bit tricky to understand. So in this video, we will be implementing repository pattern step by step so it will be easy for you to understand. So we use repository pattern whenever we need to handle a data. So for example, you have a data of user to handle and you handle it by adding a user, by deleting a user, or say by modifying the user. Okay, there would be multiple functions that you do, but these three are for now. Okay, now let's implement the repository pattern for this scenario. Now in this scenario, to implement repository pattern, we need to follow three steps. The first step is a interface step. The second step is a implementation step, and the third step is a construct step. In first step, we basically create the interface for our data. So in this case, we will create user interface for our user data. Okay. So for that, I'll create user interface of type interface. Okay. Now this interface gives us access to what are the method we have related to our user data. So I'll add these methods, add user method. Okay. So all these methods are added for now. Second step. In second step, in implementation step, we basically create one struct which implement the interface. So I'll create user interface implementation struct. Here IMPL is for implementation. You can also give other name, no worries. And since this is a struct, now to implement this interface, we need to add these functions on our struct. So let's add a first function on our struct. For that, I'll create a function name add user. Okay. Now to add this add user function on this struct, what we will do, we will convert it into the receiver function. So we will receive this add user function on this struct. Okay. And right now let's just add one message there. Let's add name of the function as a message, add user. Okay. Now we need to do same with other functions since we want to implement this interface on our struct. Okay, as you see, other functions also got added on this struct. Okay. In a third step, we basically construct a function which gives us access to all these logics for this interface. So here it is. So in third step, we basically create a function. So let's name it as a new repository interface. Since it will give access to all these functions, for that we will be returning our struct, right? And to get access to all these functions, we need to put empty curly brackets. So we have this instantiated, and since we are instantiated it and we are returning it, this would be the return type. Now to avoid it, to pass it as a value, we need to pass it exact address of this struct. So for that, we can put ampersand over here and this will become a pointer. Okay. Now here is the important thing. Since this user interface implementation functions implement all these functions of interface, we can replace this by interface. Okay. Now, whenever you want to access this functions, add user, delete, modify this logic, all you need to call this new repository interface first. Now, for example, I want this add user function, you can get it. So on this user repository, so on this user repo, if you see, you're getting access to all these functions that we have defined on it. So for example, delete, I put it delete. Okay. Now, if you see that whenever we put cursor on this construct, we find out that it is implementing the interface. That all we know that we are implementing this interface, these functions, but we don't know, if you look at here, that we don't know from where this function's logic is come. That is abstract. Actually, function logic is coming from this interface implementation, but we don't see it from here. So this is the repository pattern, the interface what applied over there. Now let's run this. As you see, these functions we got from user. So this is how it is. Just remember we have to follow these 3 steps. Okay. Thank you.